Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I have found in my travels. Today it is Poetry Thursday, so I wanted to talk about some interesting poetry that I've read lately from an author that I've talked about on this channel before, actually pretty recently. Today's poem is all about the resurrected dead, among other things. I am referring to The Chosen Ones by Pablo Neruda. I've talked about Pablo Neruda on this channel before, so I don't need to go into that great of detail. But for those who don't know, he was a Chilean poet, diplomat of some kind. He won the Nobel Prize, but he's most notable for being critical of the Chilean government after I believe it was Allende was deposed by the military, and the junta came and took over. And so he exiled himself to other places, but he's really well regarded for his poetry, often being very surreal, focusing on nature, among many other things. I've talked about at least one of his poems, and I've come to really enjoy what I've read so far, even if I don't completely understand everything that I am reading. But without further ado, let's talk about The Chosen Ones. I will read it, do a little bit of analysis, and we will move on from there. The Chosen Ones. And we, the dead, arrayed in time, scattered in arrogantly practical cemeteries, or fallen into the carnal houses of poor Bolivians. We, the dead of 1925, 26, 33, 1940, 1918, 1905, thousands of 1900s in short. How goes it with us who died before this foolish millennium? I, Pedro of the high plains, Pedro of the seeds, Pedro nobody. Didn't I have the right to the millennium and the resurrection? I want to see the resurrected so I can spit in their faces. The future generations about to be killed in airplanes, railroads, wars of hatred. Those who barely had time to be born in the present arms to the new age, and who will end up dismembered, rotting away in the mist of revelry and wine. I, a dead man, want to leave my grave, and why not? Why should those who died before their time be forgotten? Everyone's invited to the party. It's one more year, one more century with the dead and the living, and the balance sheets must be heated, not only to lay out the life, but also the withered flowers, the rotted wreaths, and the silence. Because silence has a right to the beauty, and we, death's delegates, we want to be there for a single flowering moment when the gates of future glory are opened. In terms of analysis, there's a fair bit to talk about with The Chosen Ones. In terms of narrative, I think the narrator is simply lamenting how the wars and the terror of the past is producing a negative outcome for the future. It seems like he's very angry with the people who came before. You see that in the second verse when he says, I want to see the resurrected so I can spit in their faces. The future generations about to be killed in airplanes, railroads, wars of hatred. Those who barely had time to be born and present arms to the new age, and who will end up dismembered, among many things. That's really sad. That's really bleak. I think he's saying that he wants to hold those people accountable, those who started wars, those who, invented airplanes and railroads, who utilized technology for war. That technology is now going to be used to harm future generations. And I think he's saying that he wants the resurrected to come back so he can hold them to account for that. Because and why wouldn't you want to hold people accountable for that? It's interesting that he's sort of angry, and anybody would have the right to be angry with that. But it also seems like he's not very clear on who exactly he's angry with, because it's very clear there. But in the next verse, he says, why should those who died before their time be forgotten? Everyone's invited to the party. So now is he saying that does he want the dead to come back to be resurrected, or is he mad about the innocent dead, the people who had no say in their and whether or not they died, who died because of all these wars. Like, does he want them to be resurrected? It's a bit unclear, because I don't really know who exactly he wants to bring back, who exactly he's angry with. Is it just a blanket anger, or is it like a specific anger? I think I understand that he's mad at like the people who caused these wars, but is he mad at other people as well? It's also interesting, the final lines of this poem, where he says, "But also the withered flowers, the rotted wreaths, and the silence. Because silence has a right to the beauty, and we, death's delegates, we want to be there for a single flowering moment when the gates of future glory are opened." Is he hopeful for the future, that maybe the wars and the fighting and the terror that has been wrought on humanity won't be there, and that maybe the dead can be resurrected, or they want to be resurrected so they can enjoy the glory of a peaceful future? I think that's what Pablo Neruda is getting at, but this poem can be kind of vague at times. I do feel a sense of optimism and also a sense of anger, a shared anger with Pablo there for what has come before, but maybe there is a sense that I can be hopeful in the future. Given that this was like published after his death, it's kind of weird that it's sort of from his perspective, or maybe like he wrote this near his death, like after a time that he came out of exile, at a time when Chile was no longer under the rule of a tyrant dictator. And he had some hope for the future, but also some anger that, Chile was forced to undergo all of this dictatorship, all of this blood and struggle and fighting and war. Anyway, those are my thoughts on The Chosen Ones by Pablo Neruda. If you have any thoughts, let me know in the comments below. I'm sure this poem is quite open to interpretation, and I would love to just hear what your thoughts on this. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about this poet, which they might already know about, or this poem, which you could have possibly not heard of before. And other than that, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and resurrected travels. Farewell.